Do you have questions about titrating up on your GLP-1? Well, I've got a lot of information, and it doesn't matter if you're at the lowest dose or the higher doses, or maybe you're somewhere in the middle, and it doesn't even matter which med you're on. I've got a ton of info for you, so let's jump right into it. If you're new here, hey, my name's Allie. I'm on a fantabulous weight loss quest, and hopefully you'll subscribe, come along for the ride, because I put out new videos every day. So, I am going to be doing a complete rundown of everything you need to know about titration. And I'm going to include info for both of the main GLP-1 games that we got going on here, right? Your tirzepatide and your semaglutide. So, let's jump into it. I'm going to be going rapid fire. If you guys have questions, make sure that you put them down in the comments and I'll be sure to answer them for you. So, side note, I'm not a doctor. When do you titrate up? This is the most complicated question when it comes to GLP-1s. So there are a lot of factors that you want to take into account when it comes to, is it time to titrate up? So first and foremost, are you losing weight, right? Especially if you are someone who is on specifically a weight loss version, Wegovy, Zepbound, and that is your goal, right? You want to see and track what it is that you're doing. Are you losing weight? Keep in mind that a true stall is 4 weeks or longer without losing any weight. So even if you're just losing half a pound a week or 2 pounds every other week, you are still losing weight. So it may not be time for you to titrate up. Now, some other factors to consider. Are you having appetite suppression? Are you having increased satiety, right? These are kind of like the side effects of the GLP-1 meds. So if you're losing weight, but you're not having a lot of satiety or a lot of appetite suppression, and you're dealing with a lot of cravings and other things, you may want to go ahead and consider talking to your doctor about titrating up. There's no reason to white knuckle it and keep on going if you're miserable. The whole point of the GLP-1 is to treat the disease of obesity or treat whatever condition it is that you're working with, right? So for example, myself, type 2 diabetic, I'm on Mounjaro. So there's no reason to be miserable, but at the same time, you want to make sure you're doing all the things so that you're not just blowing through the doses and making things more difficult for yourself in the long run. I just want to add a side note here that if you are on a GLP-1 and you don't need to lose weight, for example, if you are type 2 diabetic and weight loss is not your goal, then you're going to want to look at different factors when it comes to, is it time to titrate up? You're going to want to look at your daily blood sugars. You're going to want to look at your A1C, and you should be getting that tested every 3 months. Seeing how you're doing and how you're progressing over time is going to be a really good indicator of, okay, here's how we did at 3 months. Do you have side effects? If yes, stay on that dose. If you don't have side effects, okay, how's the A1C? How's it going? How's the diet? Right? There are so many more factors to kind of loop in so that you and your doctor can make an educated decision on whether or not you should move up in dose. Unfortunately, your insurance company may also play a part in titrating up. So for some insurance companies, they have this ridiculous arbitrary rule that you cannot stay at a 0.5 dose for more than 4 weeks. I can't explain it. I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. I really wish that they would get rid of this rule, but there are some insurance companies that do that. I would encourage you to fight it as much as you and your doctor can tolerate, but you may be forced to titrate up, in which case, there's not really a whole lot that you can do about it other than try to stay at that new dose for as long as possible. let's talk about side effects. If you are having extreme side effects on the dose that you're on, you do not want to titrate up, even if you're no longer losing weight on that dose. And I know that there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be like, no, right? Because they want to lose weight. But you have to remember that this is the long game, and you need to set yourself up for success long term. I cannot tell you how many times people have contacted me or messaged me or post in my positive only support group, which is linked down below. And they say, oh, I went up in dose because I stopped losing weight, but I was still having all these XYZ side effects, and now it's 10 times worse. If you are having side effects that are not manageable, right? And only you can decide what's manageable for you, then you do not need to titrate up. You need to give your body time to acclimate. But Allie, my insurance company titrated me up, or my doctor titrated me up, and now I feel terrible. Now what do I do? Well, you turn around and you go back down. Unfortunately, this is one of those situations where you're going to want to talk to your doctor and tell them, hey, I'm miserable, right? If you're having multiple days of diarrhea, vomiting, extreme side effects, right, that you cannot manage and are not getting better, then you want to talk to your doctor about saying, hey, this dose is just way too strong for me. We're going to have to go back down. The dreaded 7.5. I'm going to mention this dose specifically when it comes to Zepbound, tirzepatide, Mounjaro. 7.5, and I cannot tell you why, is absolute trash for most people. Now, I'm not saying everyone. I know of just a handful of my followers that I can think of off the top of my head that have told me that 7.5 was their favorite, but they are the lucky minority. For the most part, the majority of what I see in people who are both diabetic and or also just, on the weight loss journey, 7.5 is the most random enemy of people. And again, I don't have any study or statistic that I can quote you other than to say that it is incredibly common for people to stall on 7.5. It is incredibly common for their weight loss to slow down. I certainly had a weight loss stall on 7.5. It's not necessarily side effect related. It's not like 7.5 is I was miserable, right? It's not that. It's that people complain that it feels like you're injecting water, or you feel like, you're not doing good, or you're not seeing any progress in the scale, but you're doing all the things. This is common. Now for all my semaglutide friends, that's the Wegovy and the Ozempic. This is where dosing and titrating up is a little more complicated. So for many people, unfortunately, they do not do well on semaglutide. What do I mean by that? I mean, statistically speaking, they have higher side effects and they lose less weight. So it is incredibly common, and you will see this in support groups where people are constantly talking about titrating up because they lose 8 pounds, over the span of 6 months, and they're just like, oh God, I'm doing all the things. Can I do any better than this? So if that's you, please know that it may not be related to titration. It just may be that semaglutide is not a good fit for your body. And you may just need to talk to your doctor about switching over to tirzepatide. What are the titration myths that you've heard? Drop down in the comments and let me know. So one of the ones that really just pains me when I hear it is you lose more weight if you go up in dose. This is kind of a misnomer that was created based off of the studies that were done on semaglutide and tirzepatide. And specifically, where this comes from is the tirzepatide trials. So what happened was they, plowed people through the doses very quickly, and people lost a ton of weight at the highest dose. So people who are not well versed in understanding and extrapolating from a research study to apply to a much larger group of people, they thought this meant you lose more weight at the highest dose, so you should hurry up and get to the highest dose. No. What we have learned through doing the exact opposite is it should not be a race to the highest dose, and that many people actually lose all of their weight throughout their journey. And just shooting up to the highest dose can really be problematic, especially if you are specifically taking it for weight loss only. So you want to be careful about seeing these things on the internet that are saying, oh, you need to get to the highest dose because then you lose all your weight really fast. That's not how it works, especially if you are somebody who started out above 200 pounds and then you end up getting below 200 pounds. Your weight loss is going to slow down significantly. And the number of people who don't know this is absolutely heartbreaking. As you get down and closer to a normal weight range, you are going to start losing weight like a normal person. Normal people who are not on a GLP-1, right, who are just in a calorie deficit, working out, they lose maybe half a pound a week or a pound every other week, right? They are not dropping weight consistently like we are on a GLP-1. Now, that's partly because their body is functioning properly. So, let's give them kudos for that. We have to take a medicine because our bodies are broken. But at the same time, it can be very easy to just see all this massive weight just coming off. And you get addicted to that high of watching your weight go down on the scale, only to hit below that 200-pound mark, and then everything slows down. Or maybe you are a luckier individual who's starting out below that 200-pound mark, and you're like, I don't understand why all these people are losing 20 pounds in a month. First of all, most of that is water weight, and it just happens in the first few months when you're starting a GLP-1. And secondly, it's because of your starting point. Another titration myth is that it is automatically assumed that things are going to get worse at higher doses. Okay? This is completely dependent on the person. For example, I had a really hard time when I first started. And then as I titrated up, it got easier and easier and better and better. And now, these last few times that I've titrated up in dose, I don't have any side effects. When it comes to side effects, just because you're going up in dose doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be bad. So don't stress yourself out wondering, is this the dose that's, going to make me feel horrible? Just try it out and see how it goes. The last titration myth that I want to leave you with is the one that says that there is an equivalent semaglutide dose to a tirzepatide dose. Now, this is something that has been a huge point of contention online because of the CVS Caremark forcing, a ton of their patients to go from Zepbound, where they were successful, to Wegovy, where they were not successful. And many of those people were transitioned over by their doctors at a certain dose, claiming that they were equivalent. These two medications are not the same. Okay? I cannot tell you how many people had to go through that and ended up in the ER because they trusted that their doctor was telling them the right thing. Now, when it comes to equivalent doses, it's not equivalent in the same way because they're not the same med, right? Semaglutide has one component, tirzepatide has two. Semaglutide has a tendency to have more side effects, tirzepatide tends to have less, right? So when you're switching from one to the other, the best thing you can do is start at the very first lowest dose and go from there. If you need to titrate up quickly because you're finding that, you've been on this other medication and now, this one is not doing as well for you, that's fine. Better to be in that position than to be like many of the other people who did that switch, who didn't know that it's not equivalent dosing and ended up in the ER. I'm actually really surprised that more people didn't end up suing their doctors for doing that switch and moving them over at a higher dose of Wegovy when they were on, whatever dose on Zepbound. It's actually really surprising to me. And many of those people, when I've spoken to them, they didn't even realize. They were like, oh, well, I just thought it was, I didn't tolerate the med well. No, your doctor should not have done that to you. So there is no equivalent dosing. You will see charts online and they're great for comparison, but each person is an individual. Some people can do that switch over and be just fine. Other people do that switch over and they end up in the ER. Have you heard a titration myth? Drop down in the comments and let me know. Again, if you're looking for a quality option for a telehealth company, I've got that linked down in the description box. If you're looking for a positive only support group, I've got you covered. It's also in the description box. And as always, be kind, rewind.